essentially helping the founders manage their business while they were focused on either product or sales, which were typically their strengths and background and where they could add the most value. And so we took some of the business process things that we were often backing first-time founders. So, helping them with simple execution on payroll and just hiring, and it was a way we could add value back then. And in that experience, one of the portfolio companies went through Y Combinator, and we could see that the difference between capital on the coast versus in the Midwest. It's something we all hear about, but it was kind of a lived experience in that process. And I got talking to one of my mentors about that experience, and he said, "What are you going to do about it?" And ultimately, that mentor has become my partner at Tamarind Hill, Mark Sherry, and his background was deep healthcare and startups in healthcare, and he took a company public in the 90s and operated it as a $70 million public company. And so we decided to leverage his background and focus, and started Tamarind Hill to help healthcare focused businesses.
And let's assume there's some people listening that potentially, and these are my favorite people to reach, the people that have never heard of maybe you and Tamarind Hill. Let's assume someone hasn't heard of it.
Yep.
Give us kind of that breakdown of Tamarind Hill, maybe fund size, stage of companies that you invest in. And then today, just so everyone knows, we're going to focus on like 2 or 3 of your past investments and kind of go through that. But for now, just give us that overview.
Yeah. So Tamarind Hill Fund 1 was $12.5 million, Fund 2, $50 million. At Tamarind Hill, we really specialize in backing founders who are tackling precise challenges within healthcare, B2B healthcare at the seed or seed plus stage. A typical first check for us is $2 to $4 million into a $5 to $7 million round. We are often the first institutional check into a company and sit in a really interesting space in the ecosystem. There's a lot of capital out there for pre-seed startups and like grants and accelerators, and plenty of money flowing into the Series A level of bigger generalist funds. But there's a gap in the middle for the companies who have early product market fit and need a capital infusion to get commercialization and repeatability. And that kind of is where we come in, because that stage of company really require deep expertise and experience to go from really point A to point B. And our team has that. We're kind of experienced operators and help them navigate those challenges. Over time, we've started to create a flywheel where we've had some early exits, and some of those entrepreneurs are helping the new entrepreneurs into the portfolio. And we're really excited about what's happening there.
So what does it take for a company or founder in particular to get on your radar? Like what are you looking for early stage from a certain founder or from a company? I know they kind of go hand in hand, but I know that's often what we always hear from early stage founders is what are particular funds looking for here?
Yeah, a lot of time our founders are people that are coming out of the industry that they're looking to disrupt, and they may not have startup experience, and we really help them with that. The areas of focus for us are really kind of, we're looking at businesses in shifting sites of care, alternative reimbursements. We like the idea of creating transparent and efficient payments and data exchanges within healthcare. And then an area that we're really have a lot of background and experience is kind of fixing supply chain inefficiencies and waste within healthcare. The founders that we work with, we roll up our sleeves and take concentrated positions in a fund. We typically will have 10 to 12 companies, and are very focused on helping those entrepreneurs get to the next level and hopefully scale from there.
So after you make an investment, what is that initial, let's call it, what does the honeymoon period look like, right? You make the investment, let's call it next couple months after that. Are you, pretty hands off, or do you like to, like you said, roll up your sleeves and help them kind of take that next step from there?
Yeah, good question. And we think it's really important that once the money hits even before the money hits the bank, we start working with the entrepreneurs to identify talent gaps on the team. We help them identify channel partners to seek distribution. And we really try and enable the entrepreneurs to accelerate their business. Typically, our businesses have product market fit, and we really look to help them identify channel market fit, and which enables scale quickly. And that's kind of what we try to do with the entrepreneurs we back.
And that kind of question segments really well into my next question, which is around what we kind of wanted the bulk of this conversation to be about today. And when we have our other guests join us, we can get their side of it. But it's really understanding that VC founder relationship. So from your perspective, what are the key components of a successful VC founder relationship? What do they look like?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, oftentimes it's in a traditional sense, it's the VC helping the entrepreneur stay track their experiments. A startup is a series of experiments, and as a VC, we have the good fortune of seeing across multiple startups at the same time, and also past experience of a lot of failed experiments. And so it's our job really to inform the entrepreneurs when we see something not working, kind of try calling it out and enabling them to better understand what we've seen in the past. Just because we've seen it fail in the past doesn't mean it will fail. Our reasons to try things again, but it's really our job to help hold them accountable and hold ourselves accountable. So, yeah.
And I guess, can you share any examples of maybe a particularly effective relationship that maybe you've had with one of your startups, and I guess what made that work so well?
Yeah, we've had experience where one of our startups, they were not kind of really tracking their efficiency of go to market very well. And we just, the business, the internal culture kind of lacked with that and was a little sloppy. And we just helped them kind of call out that how much more efficient they could be. And, now that business is a top performer and one we're really excited about. And I mean, it was always doing well. It's just they could do a lot better at that time.
Is there a certain level of founder that you tend to gravitate towards more than maybe other, like say the first time founder versus the founder that has, and by the way, as a founder, when I was talking with you and I was talking with other firms, it used to be kind of frustrating where you'd be the first time founder and you'd be like, why don't all these firms like jump on with first time founder? And then when you start something else, you realize, oh, that's why, because you don't even, at that point, it's you don't even know what you don't know. And that can be I'm sure you'll agree, that can be also a superpower in many cases, right? That naiveness, that insane optimism that comes as a first-time founder that everything is going to work out. But I mean, what stage do you ideally, like, what's your sweet spot where you're like, this person has, 10, 20, obviously the more industry experience they have, probably the less risk from your point of view, right?
Yeah, they know the players of the industry. They understand the channels. They understand. We prefer people that have been in the industry for a little while and are just trying to disrupt what they know is the problem. And, it's our job to help understand the size of the problem and to help understand kind of what are the watch outs. At Tamarind Hill, we leverage executive partners that come out of the industry that a lot of the businesses we back operate in. So we have a CEO of a children's hospital. We have a COO of a large IDN, and we kind of network within their networks as well, and that's very helpful. And we provide those networks to the entrepreneurs.
That's so helpful when that happened. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, you definitely. I'll tell you, I learned so much the first time around. You just spend so much time kind of tripping over yourself the first time, trying to figure out, I don't think you like even the second time you don't get to that level of like unconscious competence, but it's definitely conscious competence where you know what you need to be doing, right? And then just from there, it gets amplified to that ultimately the level where you want to get at, that unconscious competence where you don't even have to think about it. It just happens.
You're well trained.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like an athlete, basketball player. It just becomes natural. Steph Curry just steps back and shoots it up, and we know what happens. And if I did that, the ball wouldn't even get to the rim. So,
I mean, not only that, he turns around before it goes in and starts jogging down the other end. Like that's the the level right. That every founder wants to get at some point, right? They shoot the ball, they turn around, and they jog the other way because they know it's going in. That is a good example. One of the things I always hear, because I mean, you hear this too, right? We all hear the horror stories of certain firms out there or certain entrepreneurs up there. We've heard it on both sides of the equation. So that being said, how do you build trust with the founders that you end up investing in?
Yeah, a lot of times for us at Tamarind Hill, it's spend time with them and also look for small wins to start. I mean, it's just like how do entrepreneurs measure their time to success, right? You want to have at least some nuggets along the way, and we shoot for that too when we're looking to add value. So part of that is being very disciplined in investing in companies that you feel you really can add value. And at Tamarind Hill, we have a pretty focused thesis around not only the stage, but also the industry and the subsegments within that. And we think that puts us in a good position to add time to value early, and hopefully and luckily we back some great folks that we're very happy to work with, and hopefully they feel the same about us as well.
At this time, what particular areas are you really focused in on when it comes to your investments?
So we're very focused on kind of really three segments within healthcare, kind of shifting sites of care and alternative reimbursements, kind of transparency and efficient payments, which we would include data exchanges in that, and supply chain inefficiencies. That's really what our focus is.
Love it. And what we're going to do right now, another good segment, is we're going to pull up a couple, I think about 2 or 3 investments that you've made.
Great.
And what I would like is let's not spend too much time on it, but maybe 2 or 3 minutes for each one. You can kind of give us the broad overview of them, and then maybe 1 to 2 bullets around like what was it about this company. Actually, first off, what did you think about them the first time you heard them? Because you may not have initially liked all of these, right? And then the second piece was what was about, like if you had to narrow it down to 1 or 2 bullets, what was it about this company that ultimately made you invest?
All right, sounds good.
All right, let's pull it up. I'm going to screen share, and we're going to go through them.
Which one we going to start with?
We're going to start with Handle.
All right.
Let me pull it up here. Okay.
So,
1 second. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Whoops, that was the wrong one. We had Rebecca up here from the other day. Presentation. Let's see if this one works. 1 sec. We're going to go back to our original. You can tell it's the first time I've used this, huh? Not the first time, but here, we'll do this right here.
You're experimenting. We like that.
We've never done a screen share on this show before, so this is definitely a first. Here we go.
You'll do it better the next time. I promise you.
All right, so we have Handle here. Tell us about this company real quick, and then from here, give us those bullets.
Yeah, absolutely. So Handle today is different than Handle in probably, 2017 when it became a Tamarind Hill business. Today, they're focused on improving kind of healthcare supply chain by helping large IDNs with procurement and management of their capital goods and fleets. So fleets, think pumps, beds, and carts. They have a marketplace that links to a SaaS platform that ingests all the purchasing of capital goods history and spits out, in that platform is called Capital Cycle Management. And they just help the healthcare organizations make better decisions instead of in their capital procurement. So instead of the loudest, squeakiest wheel getting serviced, it's the one that really needs it the most. And they're Kyle Green and his team is a first-class organization. They're based out of Louisville, Kentucky, and they're about to enjoy the Kentucky Derby. I promise you that.
I love it.
Yeah.
We're going to switch over to another one. We're going to go through these relatively quick, but
Sure.
People will be able to check these out after, which is also a hope. Definitely check them out, everyone. We're going to go to Assist IQ. So tell us about this one.
Yeah, Assist IQ is actually one of our more recent investments. They're an AI computer vision platform which delivers visibility on supply usage in critical high-cost healthcare environments. The idea here is to reduce costs, waste, and carbon, really, for health systems, as well as capture missed revenue. They've seen some examples where it's resulted in 25% of savings. For us, this was an interesting investment because the company's based in Montreal, so it was our first international investment, and we've been thrilled to work with Lisa and her team, and they've been a great organization to be backers of, and we're thrilled with how fast they're moving.
What did you think about them when they first came in front of you?
Well, at first they were Canadian, so I had to get over that, and they're repeat founders outside of healthcare, but you could tell that they really were attacking the problem well, and were very organized, and we were, getting over and understanding investing in Canada, which wasn't that bad. We quickly were very happy with the problem they were looking to solve, and they're installed in a couple hospitals in Canada and negotiating a few here in the United States, and it's a early business, but one that we're very excited about.
Next company we're going to go into is Nimble Systems.
Nimble Systems. That's a business that we backed in August of 22, I think it is. They were in both Tempe, Arizona, and Louisville, Kentucky, I believe, at the time, and now they're based in Dublin, Ohio. Nimble is a practice management solution for the HME market. So they're one of the leading providers for orthotics and prosthetics practices, and have kind of expanded their offerings to other verticals in HME. They provide RCM and other payment solutions to their customers, with continued plans to continue to add to their product roadmap, and doing more for their businesses, while they also kind of grow their TAM, if you will. And Nimble is, we back them. They're first-time founders. Josh and Chad, they started the business in Lexington, and kind of did the hack house thing, living together. I think there was 10 people living in the same house at one point in time, and eventually now they live in Dublin, Ohio, and our team is based in Dublin, Ohio, so they're very close to us, and they've kind of been able to really work with our network, and they've done a great job. Off to the races.
Thank you for providing some additional guidance on all of these too. It's actually, I used to do that. I had a show a while back where I used to do like why they invested, and we'd kind of go through these conversations in 15-minute segments, and it's always fun to do that with investors to kind of get that point of view, and then also to kind of hear from the founders. All right, you got this capital, now what are you going to do next? Let me just stop sharing my screen and go back to this. Perfect. For the next couple minutes, what I would really love to focus on too is what do you ideally like to see? They close the round, you wire the funds. I know there's not a one size fits all next step, but what do you like to see them initially spend that capital? Is it okay, now you're going to expand the team with the right talent, or is it always let's put more into product, or does it honestly it just differs with every company that you invest in?
It doesn't. I mean, it's not. There's shades of gray. It's not completely different. We want our entrepreneurs buying coffee, not champagne, when our money goes into the bank, because that's when the time to work really kicks in. Of course, we all like to celebrate along the way when there's successes, but as you know, being an entrepreneur. That's really when the work starts, and it doesn't really end until, well, it's over, and then even then it's on to the next often. The companies we back typically are refining their product and also adding to their team. So their team is more, sometimes their board, sometimes executive level, sometimes it's individual contributor I see who is just functions focused, and that helps their flywheel turn faster. And we try and help them find those people and place them.
What's it called? Another question I wanted to ask you, and you said it not in the same sense, but you said board, which made me think, okay, board and investors. You have to love ADD, right, Ben? When you look at the role of, like, how has the role of the board and investors, how has that changed today, or do you think it's remained pretty stagnant over the last 20 years?
So a traditional board has a fiduciary duty to the business, right? And that's the most important part of being on the board. But at Tamarind Hill, you require a board seat to go along with our investment. The board seat serves really a dual purpose. The typical governance mandates that go with most lead writers, but lead check writers. But also it helps drive kind of informed decision making, kind of what we talked about a little bit before. A startup is a series of failures. As former entrepreneurs ourselves, our team embraces that, and now we see a lot of mistakes by design, and it is our job to be close to the action and help entrepreneurs identify when something isn't working. At Tamarind Hill, I think we've made 21 investments so far, and dozens before we formed Tamarind Hill. And when we sit on the board of a company, we're really able to help entrepreneurs faster and ensure those failures cost less. So that's kind of what we see a early stage board's responsibility being.
How would, like, let's say something not so great happens.
Yeah.
How, as a board member, as an investor, like, how do you hope the founder relays that information to you? What's the right way to relay it?
I mean, as fast as possible. Most of our one of the things we tell our entrepreneurs when we make an investment is let's always put all the monkeys on the table, because if the monkeys aren't on the table, we don't know how to control them. And we all have a shared vision for the company, and we hope we can be helpful in executing that vision. And historically we have been. So I'm sure there will be a time when maybe that doesn't work, but it seems to be working, and we want to stick to it.
And for the companies that you invest in, how do you hope that, like, what's the ideal structure for investor updates? Like, what does that kind of template look like in your mind? I know it differs by a lot of investors, right? They have certain things they want to look for, and it really depends on the investment, right? But what are some of the things you look for with your portfolio companies in those investor updates?
Yeah, so healthcare is different than traditional SaaS, or a lot of times it is. The type of healthcare we invest in is different than SaaS, because we tend to stay away from consumer-focused businesses, but we invest both at enterprise and kind of SMB clinic type businesses as well. And at the earliest stage, those are two different businesses, and at an enterprise level, a lot of times the most efficient way to market is to be a tech-enabled service versus a SaaS solution. Versus at SMB, it might be to be SaaS. And so it's just different, I guess.
What are some of the things? Are there any parts of an investor update you think we can talk about specifically to healthcare that you think will need to be added? Maybe not immediately, but in the upcoming months, years, that like it's going to be not a requirement, but an expectation that investors are going to want to see more of healthcare startups in their updates?
I guess I haven't thought about.
I just thought of that right now. That wasn't even one of my questions.
Investor updates, I think people, speaking across the 21 companies we have, they're not done enough. And knowing that investor updates are great, are easily get cast, or from an entrepreneur's perspective, when things are going well, you just want to put your head down and execute on things. When things are going wrong, you also want to just put your head down and execute on things. But when things are going wrong is when you wish you had already been doing investor updates. You should be doing investor updates regularly and in a simple format that you as the CEO can execute, or you can outsource to different people in your organization, right? That can help collate those into one quick, easy update for your investors. Investor updates, if you only have 2 or 3 investors, matter a little less, because hopefully that's happening on a more informal basis. But in today's society, one of the things we've done is a lot of entrepreneurs have a lot of investors and a lot of angels, and especially in early rounds. And that's when it's important to kind of keep everybody understanding of not only when things are going well, but also when things are going poorly, which is going to happen at some point. I mean, most likely you're going to have cycles of good and bad, and you just need to keep everybody up to speed.
Let's talk a little bit about two scenarios. It's getting about time for one of your startups to raise that next round of capital, whether through you participating again or through maybe helping them with those next investors. What does that process look like? How soon do you want to start interacting with them, or how soon do you want founders to start thinking about that next raise? And how involved do you like to be? Let's say you invested, initially, and now they're getting ready to raise their next round of funding. What do you like your level of involvement to be in that next round, I guess, either from a capital standpoint or from a advice standpoint?
Yeah, oftentimes 12 months before you need to raise that round, we sit down with our entrepreneurs and talk to them about the types of investors that they want to have and start a communications plan with them. And, institutional investors like to be brought along in the story. They don't want to be just show up when a deal is to be done, because the value of the business and the value of the entrepreneur isn't really recognized in that situation, especially for us, because we're talking about a Series A stage here. We're not talking about a D or a much later stage opportunity, and so there's still things to be proven. And I think it's important to kind of bring investors along in the story process, and that 6 months you're having sit down meetings with them, and 60 days before you're briefing them and kind of giving them an idea of what size check you want to write or you want them to write, and what you're hoping to accomplish with it.
Now, what about on the other scenario? They have an acquisition offer or a merger potential. What does that conversation look like with you and your team?
Yeah, if we're still the lead, we expect to be at the table with them, and kind of really thinking if now is the right time, or if are we really maximizing the opportunity or not? It's always flattering when somebody wants to buy your business, but it isn't always the right thing to do. And so you really need to look at the opportunity, each opportunity on a standalone basis. Mm-hmm. And we try and help the entrepreneur think through the pros and cons of that.
I love it. Thank you so much for the insights. And now we're gonna add in the founder and CEO of HealthTap, Sean Mehra, who I've known for a while, and you and I can ask him some questions. It'll be fun. We haven't done a BaldConvos episode with a few people, so let's without further ado, let's bring him on.
All the technology.
Sean, what's going on? I'm gonna you don't need my bald head logo on your side, so I'm gonna put you in the middle here, so you don't have that. But what's going on? Wow. I don't know if you know this, Ben. He's won Best Beard of the Year award with us 3 times, uncontested.
Really? And great hair, too.
That's why he's taunting me with it. You see that?
I thought it would disqualify me from a bald convo.
You're about to get kicked. Yeah. How are you doing? So good to see you again.
I'm doing great. My 2-year-old daughter just had her first ballet class this morning, so enjoying the photos that I just took from that.
Are you in any, like, did you show her how it's done? Are you out there too, or we'll never see the light? Those photos will never.
In ballet. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hey, you got to be quick as a founder, right? You have to be quick on your feet, light on your feet. Yeah.
There you go.
Now, Ben, do you and Sean have you two met before?
No. I don't think so. No.
It's a pleasure.
Well, great to
likewise.
Great to connect you two then. Respect both of you so much. And Sean, Ben and I just had a kind of a conversation around from the VC side of things, right? That VC founder dynamic and what that looks like. So I guess real quick, just give us that 1 minute for those that I'm sure everyone, you were on the OGs of telehealth. You probably have to go pretty far for someone not to hear in healthcare about HealthTap, but let's assume there's people that haven't heard of HealthTap. Give us that quick overview, and then we'll kind of go into, Ben, feel free to throughout the conversation when you have questions. I want this to be very collaborative. We can both ask some stuff to Sean, but let's start off with that, Sean.
Great.
Amazing. Well, it's great to be here. Founder and CEO of HealthTap. HealthTap is a nationwide primary care practice whose mission is to place a primary care doctor at every American's fingertips, no matter where they live or how they pay for their care. We just believe that everyone should have convenient and affordable access to a personal doctor that they choose, that they love, and that they keep for a lifelong relationship to manage ongoing health conditions and prevention, wellness, and screening goals. And I was really excited about this conversation today just because prior to HealthTap, I've just, at every institution I've been with, Yale, Stanford, and some other kind of communities, I've been really involved in just kind of either mentoring or standing up entrepreneurial support programs on those campuses. And just having an audience with other entrepreneurs and helping them be more successful is something that's always been a passion. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to have you here. You're going to ask something, Ben?
Oh, no. Well,
Oh.
Sean, there are a lot of problems in healthcare. How did you pick primary care as the thing to tackle?
I like big problems that affect big markets and big groups of people. And primary care is what 80% of the people need 80% of the time, right? There's a lot of businesses and opportunities and specialized verticals and niche segments, which can be very good businesses. I like problems and solutions for the masses. And that's just been my personal appeal.
That's awesome.
And Sean, it's probably more rare in these days than in years past, but you've been running this company, you've been building this company for like, kudos to you to be around also this long, right? Because we call you one of the OGs of telehealth because you were there before the pandemic, before it was the cool thing to go into this space.
Yeah.
I guess talk us through. Let's go from this perspective, since this is the topic at hand, right? Talk us through some of your earlier like VC that VC founder conversations that you had when you were first raising. Obviously, you've raised several rounds of funding at this point. Talk us through what we already got Ben's perspective on what he looked for in founders. What were you looking for in the early days, and what are you looking for now when you think of investors?
It's great. I have a few thoughts on venture capital. First of all, I think when it comes to what do you look for in a VC, there's two parts to the phrase venture capital. There's the venture and then there's the capital. And the capital piece is a commodity, right? Cash is by definition fungible. And on the same terms, you could take money from anybody. It's the venture piece that makes venture capital potentially differentiated for entrepreneurs. And when I think about who is the right VC partner for a startup, what first comes to mind is the person on the other side, not the firm, right? Because ultimately you're doing a deal with an individual that is potentially championing you amongst their investment committee. But does that person on the other side of the table that's about to be your partner, that's about to be on your board and help you navigate difficult decisions as you grow your company, do they share values with you as an individual, as a person? And I think that's first and foremost the most important thing, because life is short and you just want to be doing things with humans, fellow humans that you enjoy. And I think then what follows are things like, is this a firm that has a reputation and track record of helping you sell? Like, are they going to be out there in the market pitching you to media, giving you a platform to connect with other investors, taking reference calls to hire talent, sourcing that talent for you? Are they going to bring you introductions to customers that generate revenue? I think that's where all the value add really comes in the right VC partner. And then finally, are they going to be there with you in follow-on rounds? Because it's, you in the early stages, you may not always have all the selection in the world. Like, you might take money from an angel who's just in it for the seed round. But if you can find an investor who said, look, this is an initial check, but if you prove out these 2 or 3 things, I'll be there for you a year from now with a follow-on, that's obviously taking a lot more risk off the table than someone who's just a one and done investor. So that's kind of at a high level the things I care about.
And one of the things Ben and I talked a lot about is building that VC founder trust. So from your point of view, how is trust built between the investor and the founder in an ideal world?
Look, it is a complex partnership, like marriage or friendship. So there's no clean answer to that, but it's perhaps a very obvious and cliche answer. But when you enter into any complex partnership, there's going to be a mix of shared goals and then some very distinct individual goals from your respective, perspectives. And again, I would not discount the importance of liking each other as humans. And so that's an emotional cachet that you draw on during difficult times. And in those tough conversations where you have to find compromise and find mutual ground, either on company strategy or potential transactions you want to take on for the company, or just differences of opinion on how to operate something in the minutia. I think when you know each other's families, members' names, when you know each other's childhood dreams and hopes, when you have stories of, battle scars you've both accumulated, you remember that the other person, whether it's the VC or the entrepreneur, ultimately is just another human with their own goals, but at the same time, aligned with you in many ways. You're both ultimately seeking for the startup to be successful. I think being able to lean on that, that's when you get through the tough times. It's really when there's this kind of arm's length transactional relationship where you can butt heads.
Sean, thinking back about 4 years ago, a lot of companies needed capital. Did you have to raise capital during COVID? And if so, did you know your entrepreneur or know your investor or not?
In our particular story, we were in some ways fortunate and in some ways not fortunate, but ultimately more fortunate. And that's because we had existing insider support, and we kept drawing on that insider support. And that got us through the pandemic, and that puts us in a position right now where we don't have, some unrealistic expectation on valuation and multiple stakeholders in the boardroom that are resisting maybe a potential down round in a tough market environment, right? So we have fewer stakeholders, less complexity, and really deep commitment and support that has only been fortified over time. I'll say it's relatively less fortunate than those that raised lots of money when capital was cheap and flowing. But the curse of having a strong balance sheet from raising at that point is it was probably at a very high valuation that companies have done the opposite of grow into, which has probably gone down from relative to. And that is creating a lot of tension for a lot of founders in the boardroom. Because now when they need money again, everyone's incentives are not aligned. So that's why I say almost, raising a lot of money when capital was cheap is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess one of the things I wanted to ask you, Sean, is how in recent years, how have founders really have to adapt to the market at where it's at today? And specifically, obviously in healthcare, let's just focus in on that. Because things are different than they were, 2,
Absolutely.
3, 4 years ago.
My friend Chrissy Farr, who is a digital health reporter, previously VC and still writes a really fantastic Substack. She had a LinkedIn post that I really think about a lot, actually. And she said, in the parable of the tortoise and the hare, the healthcare startups that are winning are cockroaches because the cockroaches just survive. They live to fight another day. They just make it through when everyone else is dying or suffering. They're there the next day to reap the reward of being the only one around. So I think we are in a landscape where it's survival of the fittest. I think the startups that emerge as leaders amongst weekend competition will be the ones that were the most resilient, either in management team fortitude and persistence or in ongoing investor support. But we're really in this very difficult time where it's not about maximizing top line. It's about bolstering your bottom line and just fighting to live another day. And I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. Everyone can speculate when that is in healthcare and digital health. I don't think it's 4 years away, but I also don't think it's 4 months away. So just hunker down, focus on the fundamentals, and don't die. Just don't die.
Ben, what are you as an investor most concerned about? Kind of, let's look at the next 5 years out, and then we'll kick it back to Sean.
Yeah. So at Tamarind Hill, our first fund was 2017. We're early stage investors, very early stage investors. So a lot of our companies didn't really get caught up in the raise a lot of capital thing. That certainly has happened, but we have had a couple companies but on balance, we're pretty well positioned. We're also in a fortunate position where at Tamarind Hill, we've never lost a company yet either. So, Sean, you hit on it. In healthcare, it's 7-year overnight successes. It's not things that happen quickly. You need to be around, you need to survive. And sometimes that just means pulling back and being more conservative. And oftentimes it does. Almost always it does. And certainly in these times. So I see what Sean's talking about, and definitely think it's something that is in the market.
I just get the sense that in the world of greed-driven markets and fear-driven markets, this is a very fear-driven market. And so everyone's psyche is just coming from a very different place. It's about preventing the downside and not maximizing the upside. So it doesn't matter if you're an investor, an entrepreneur, or partner, right? Everyone's thinking this way right now.
So Sean, how do you get past that thinking?
I think time. That's why I think staying power and staying true to the fundamentals. Also, as a practical piece of advice, I think entrepreneurs need to start thinking about the cash on their balance sheet like their own. So one little psychological trick that really just changed the way I run my companies is, instead of seeing it as other people's money, so what if it gets spent, I'll just go and raise some more. Cash is cheap. If you were bootstrapping your business and this was money coming out of your personal checkings or savings account, you would not spend the way you spend other people's money, right? And so if you can just flip that switch in your head and see the cash in your business as your cash, you're going to make much smarter decisions on where you spend. You'll think twice about making those 2 extra hires. You'll say, can we get it done with the people around the table? You'll say, do we really need to outsource that to this vendor, or can we manage it amongst the team we have, right? Like, you'll just be scrappier. And I think scrappiness is what the market requires from startups right now.
It's just interesting though, because I think there's founders out there that, when it's my own capital, I'm cautious and I make the right decisions with it. When it's other people's, I even take it even more to heart, right? You also meet those type of founders, right? That it's like, now you have a bunch of people relying on you. Like, if you're driving in a car alone, maybe you go a little bit faster, Sean, than if your daughter's in the back seat, right? Because now you have someone else I feel like that's the kind of the equivalent, right? Like, once you take on that capital from investors, founders should start thinking that that's in the back seat and we want to protect it. And you're maybe not, you still go fast, you still want to move fast, yeah, it's interesting. And I also think that a lot of the companies that succeeded years ago, like, I could be wrong on this, but like the Ubers and things like that, if they had to work in this market today, they would be in big trouble.
They probably wouldn't work in this market today.
Yeah.
They were companies of their generation because of the market they were founded in.
Yeah, if Uber didn't have open checkbook, right, to just keep being able to raise over and over and over again, even when they were spending like crazy, you couldn't spend like 15 million on a Vegas party, right, Sean? You'd probably get a call from your investors if you did something like that, no matter how good you're doing.
Yeah, you got healthcare investors. But that being said, wasn't that something like a 2006 business that went through the GFC? And so, I mean, it's not like they didn't have market disruptions and that they had to navigate through, I think. But I think your point is still a good one, but that each market is its own, and certainly healthcare is its own market, and it has extremely patient capital, I think, luckily, but it also has capital that it has limited capital, as crazy as it is.
It's patient, but it's conservative.
Yeah.
You get both of those things. So,
from each of your perspectives, like, Sean, what's one thing you wish maybe investors from your point of view did more, or or more understanding of with entrepreneurs? And then Ben, maybe and it could be nothing, right? But then Ben, from your side as the investor, what do you want entrepreneurs to know? If it could be like one or two tips from each of you, kind of just as we begin to wrap up here, I would love to hear that.
Mine would be like a very small but tactical way to interact with founders that are fundraising. So I would appeal to all investors to just be candid and responsive in your feedback, even if it's a no. I think really what frustrates me the most when I see it happen to founders is they spend a lot of time pitching a firm, and they either get a lack of a no or they get a very cryptic pass. And that's not a good way to earn goodwill, but nor does it help the entrepreneur grow as an entrepreneur. So I think if firms could be consistent in not just saying no quickly if it's a no, but explaining why it's a no. Because even if it's not for this company, that founder may be raising again for another company down the road. And that is incredibly instructive and educational. Those are real world data points to form pattern recognition that you just couldn't if you're flying in the dark on why you're getting no's and yeses. So it's a small little thing, but I think it goes a long way in building better entrepreneurs in the ecosystem.
And then from your point of view, Ben?
My point of view, I mean, the entrepreneurs we serve we enjoy working with, and they're some of the hardest working people I know, and we're thrilled to be part along the journey with them. It's just trying to identify those types of folks that every day get up and accept the challenge, and that's what we look for.
Sean, when it's a no from Ben, he does the old Godfather horse head no, and here's why. No, I'm just kidding. That'd be awful. Yeah. Sean, what's next for health? It's obviously we chatted. I believe it was a few weeks back, maybe even over a month now. But what can you share with us in terms of what's next for HealthTap? I know there's some stuff you can't share, but
no, I think what I will say is that for so many startups, a lot of stars need to align for things to take off. It's never just one thing. The consumers or customers have to be ready. There needs to be kind of a market prep and readiness for your product. You need to have the operational excellence and the team and the platform and the capability to service that. You need to have your sales and commercial machine kind of in a repeatable motion. And I think HealthTap's in a position where all those stars are aligning. Look, we founded this business in 2010, and candidly, in hindsight, it was probably early then. And market timing with startups could kill a good founding team, could kill a good strategy, can kill even like really great raises and a lot of capital on the balance sheet. So this goes back to just staying in the fight long enough to seize the opportunity when all the stars align. And what's next for HealthTap is seizing that opportunity because the stars are aligning for us. I think the pandemic did a lot for us in prepping the consumers. I think I thank the first wave of digital health and telehealth companies that's educated the enterprise market on what works and what doesn't work and what they want next. And we've been monitoring, observing that, and positioning ourselves to be that second generation of disruptor. So, without going into specifics, I'm grateful to be here 14 years later, being ready to seize the moment, but I'm very excited because the market is ready. And so are we.
And Ben, from your end, anything that you can share? I know you recently, we went through one of your more recent investments, but do you have any ones that you are you don't have to tell us who, but are in the process of closing or that you're in due diligence on right now?
The last 2 years, it's been tough to raise follow-on capital for a lot of businesses. And, that put us in a position of really choosing to double down with some entrepreneurs. And we're fortunate that some of those are, with term sheets in hand and some great investors on the other side. So we're hoping we get these things closed and the entrepreneurs have that next round of fresh capital, Sean, that you're talking about at reasonable valuations, but the valuations have a little matter to it, but what's most important is these entrepreneurs have the ability to really go get more market and really attack the problems that they're trying to solve. So that's what's new for us, and we're really excited for it. Those things will be coming out here hopefully in the next 45, 60 days. So good news.
I think there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up here, last thing, it's the lightning round where I go through and I just ask you quick questions each. This does not have to do with healthcare, investing, entrepreneurship, anything. All right. So we'll go Sean, then Ben for all of these. How do you take your coffee?
Ooh, a little bit of milk, splash of milk, but black.
Cold brew.
Cold brew. I'm with you there. I do cold brew and 2 shots of espresso in the cold brew.
Oh my God.
Which is, it's like a double red eye. It is. It's good. It's really good. Favorite movie?
Oh my God.
Or one of your favorite movies. I won't say favorite because that makes people have to think so much.
This is way too high pressure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Green Mile or Shawshank Redemption. Those prisoner movies just touch you.
Good. A different kind of prisoner movie, but Die Hard.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Isn't that a Christmas movie? Isn't
It-
that what they?
I mean, if it allows me to watch it that time of year, I'll call it a Christmas movie.
So this might be I actually really like the butterfly effect with Ashton Kutcher. I don't know if either have seen that. I mean, that's been discussed before, but I really like that movie. And then kind of last question for both of you. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, if you were in a different universe, what would you be doing?
Oh my God. I'd have unlimited wealth so that I can tinker with science projects.
So in a different universe, you'd be an entrepreneur.
No, well, I would be, employing a bunch of scientists working on cool R&D breakthroughs just for the fun and intellectual curiosity of it.
Love it. You, Ben?
Running a restaurant or something like that, serving people, putting joy in their lives, and trying to make fill their bellies.
I love it.
Sign me up.
I love it. Well, thank you both so much for joining us here today. Hopefully we'll have you come back on at some point down the road, but really love doing these lives, and wishing you both the best of luck, and we'll definitely stay in touch. But thanks again for coming on the show today.